Everybody. My name is Cindy Fan, and I'm just going to kick this off. So just a little bit about VMware, which is the company that I work for. We are a B2B company, and it's an IT solution company. So ultimately, what our software solutions do is actually save money for IT professionals and companies that actually focus on streamlining their business. It's actually founded in 1998, and we're headquartered in Palo Alto, and we've been growing dramatically up to like over 19,000 people today, and over 500 customers and 75,000 partners. A little bit about me. I've been with VMware for a little bit over 5 years. And my current role now is a senior manager, and my focus area is digital demand. And I do a lot of hands-on stuff as well, so I am both a practitioner as well as managing a small team to run a lot of demand gen campaigns. Outside of work, I used to love dancing, but I don't think I can really do that a lot now. But I love to watch movies and hang out with my family. And something very exciting for me is I'm expecting a baby girl, which is is actually in December, so hopefully she doesn't come too early. So today, I just want to dive in really quickly just to talk to you a little bit from a practitioner's point of view and share with you my knowledge, what I experienced, as well as what I've gone through, what VMware is focusing on today. This is pretty much the landscape and challenges in B2B space, and I believe it's actually B2C as well. And we face the similar challenges, as you may have already know, that our audience is across all different digital channels, or even offline, online. So depending on who we talk to, the channel could mean differently. For us, we basically can, have visitors or our leads or our prospects across many different areas. Like they could be responding to emails, they could go to our .com, they could even be part of our social channel, or even, just in different areas like, attending an event and so forth. So how do we actually, as a company, talk to our audience in a smart way? And so that is pretty much our challenge. And ultimately, it's not nonlinear. It's cross-channel and mostly anonymous. So that means we don't know who our audience is. How do we address them in a smart way? Pretty much. So what we do is we actually come up with a sort of like a digital framework. And because my area is more focused on digital demand, we actually have different areas that we focus on. And to start out, what we have is, as part of our digital data hub, which is our .com, which is our own data, right? So VMware.com plays a major role in this area. And what we do is our product and web pages are also being tagged with the way that we can actually track our visitors who come, what do they do on the site, what do they do after they leave the site and then come back. So things like that, we're trying to be smarter about our own channel, which is our .com and the .com properties. On top of that, we actually layer in VMware data, which is first-party data, as well as second-party data and third data, depending on the need of our campaigns and our objectives, basically. So as you can see here, there's multiple inbound sources that we focus on. A lot of the time it's organic channels. So organic just means that visitors who come to .com and just on their own through search or just direct. And obviously that really brings to the key point of SEO, how important it is for us to have a great foundation for our .com so that we can attract the right type of traffic and visitors who come. So I think that BrightEdge play a key role to help us to enhance some of that stuff, and as well as just being a lot more relevant to our audience. So rich content, information that our audience actually look for, how long do they stay on the site. All of that information we capture in our own database through certain solutions. And then we do have paid inbound campaigns. And so you've heard probably from many different sessions about kind of how do we target our audience, how do we expand the reach to our audience. So, targeting with account targeting, build lookalike audience. How do we actually reach our audience in the right way? And the right type of audience that we're looking for as well is part of our strategy. And as people land on .com, they could be anonymous, but we're trying to de-anonymize them as much as we can. So what it means is that when they come to .com and they have filled out something, like a form, a contact me, or any kind of demand gen type of offers, we actually start to know and recognize who they are. So once they come back, or they actually go to different channels, including like social channels, we can technically advance them to the next level quicker. So ultimately, just accelerating their digital journey. And what we do there is, as they leave .com, we actually, or when they land on .com, we start to tie different pieces of information about them. We start to build different segments, data segment. These are all PII, so it's not like we know exactly who this person is, but more like through cookie pool, through a lot of non-private information that we can gather from our visitors. We start to build segment. So that could example is if they come to a product page, and it could be, for example, I can throw out a product name, which is NSX. It's about security. So if they come to the security pages and they start browsing around and they want to, download certain information on there, we also build personas segments. We actually know what stage they're looking at. Are they looking at awareness information? Are they looking at more deeply, like, technical reviews or, like product downloads and things like that? So we actually map them into different type of assets. So once people start to consume these assets, we know what to do next. So we actually build out these segments to handle that and then map out the asset pool. We basically just create these segments and then follow them after they land on .com. So after they land on .com and they've been segmented, and they go to like other channels, for example, like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, how do we treat them? Even like display channels. Or when they come back to .com at that given point, we actually start to nurture them because we already know that who they are in a little bit. If we don't know who they are, we're always going to put them into a different bucket or a segment. But ultimately, that is our framework. And obviously, this one does not just go one way through because it's not a linear path. So what we do is all of the data, even they go onto different channels and consume different content, we actually send the feedback loop into our own data hub. So we know that they have done something else. So for example, if we have a pool that they're basically assigned to different stages and they have consumed, let's say, awareness stage type of content on one channel on LinkedIn, and they don't go back to LinkedIn, but they go back to .com. We know that they have done that already. We're going to serve up a different asset in the next stage. Or if they don't even want to do that and they go to display and they consume the next step asset, like consideration, we come back, we're going to serve up like hands-on lab, which is our trial. So things like that, we want to coordinate it very well. So from a practitioner's point of view, I want to share with you what we do really when we do a campaign plan. So the framework that you had seen earlier is more like, okay, this is one great framework, but in reality, we also have to depend on funding. Do we have enough funding to support the campaigns that we're running for this particular product? The objectives for the priority, well, ultimately, I'm lucky enough to be part of a organization for the global organization. We call it a Center of Excellence doing this, but what we do is we also depend on and we can basically focus on more of a priorities products for the company, but in the end of the day, it's still dependent on the ROI and what can we do with the funding that we have. So we have to be very smart about what we plan on. So during the planning phase, we look at how do we define the objectives. What do we want to do with this campaign? Are we just going to do inbound to, just drive a lot of visitors to our .com and then learn about them, cookie them, and then nurture them after? Or are we already good with that because we already have so many visitors, we already have a great set of data segments that we can just lead them or nurture them after they leave .com? So things like that we actually define as part of our objectives. And then in terms of the KPIs, we actually set a lot of different KPIs. So for us to be effective and efficient in what we do, we don't just look at the first layer of how many visitors come to .com, how many, or landing pages, what is the click-through rate, how is the engagement rate. I mean, those are really great metrics to look at, but in the end of the day, for us, it's about ROI, how much money you put in, and what is the return on the monies, because we would have to present that back to the business, to our stakeholders, and even to our sister COEs that should we amplify this program moving forward, or do we just stop and do recommendation that this is something we shouldn't do again? And I can give you some examples of that too, is things that we're doing. So tying the data from the vendors' dashboards as well as external data into our own internal data is what we also do. So the cost per raw lead, number of raw leads that come in, number of responses come from our own internal system, as well as the opportunities that got generated or created from those raw leads. And then at the end of the day, how many of them actually allow us to close the books with? And so we look at the conversion rate of those opportunities to actually draw a better picture when we present it back to our stakeholders. We have to define the data sources. Are we going to purchase or acquire data from external sources? Are we going to use our own internal first-party data to start out? So things like that we also look at very closely. And cookie pool is like the rule of thumb for digital marketing. We're starting to build a lot of intelligence through cookie pool because it's non-private data. And then the timeline, how long should a campaign last? Usually with paid campaigns, it's more like, you kind of exhaust your funding, but you want to pace it in the right way. But if it's like more of an organic kind of campaign, meaning we drive traffic using our own earned channels, like a social corporate channels, then it could be an always-on thing. So every single given objective, we define how long would it last, when do we actually stop, pause to optimize, as well as to stop and call it the end and do the recommendation and read out to say, should we continue this? Is it a successful program, or is it, or a pilot even, or actually something that we should continue? So in terms of execution, for this particular one, we define the asset, the scope of it, like how many assets do we want to just use as part of our demand gen campaigns. And then we build segments, and we actually decide that, okay, let's just use the first-party data, but we can also have opportunity to go and purchase and acquire, third-party data through our exchange partners, and then we actually publish them through different to the display, social, and on-site channels. And with that, it's always on .com, we use personalization. So if you come back and you had done certain things, you will see only the next step type of information, so that we know that we don't want to waste your time looking at the same ad or the same offer or same content. We want to deliver to you something that is relevant to you at the moment. However, if you're no longer interested by a couple of times, you're not even responding to any of these things, we will actually put you back in a different segment where you can see a lot more content. And then some of the examples of experience there. But I'm just going to go on to this one, and I think this one is more of an executive dashboard. And when we do a campaign plan, and as part of the overall framework, for example, we build out a certain dashboard as part of a detailed dashboard. So from my experience, what we do is I've been talking to so many stakeholders within our company to deliver to them the results that we drive through our campaigns, through our programs, or even pilots. And people ask a lot of different questions depending on who I'm talking to. So if I go to, a VP, they would say like, well, give me some high-level numbers. I don't need to know the details. But then when I talk to another campaign manager, they would go really deep and they would ask all the questions that I probably don't even have on my deck to share. So then I ended up like having a whole lot of, different slides just so, but basically this is more of an executive dashboard that it can tend to work for the audience that I've spoken to. So this is an example of the set of campaigns for our digital team have been driven. It's absolutely a big teamwork type of work. It's, we work with personalization team, we work with campaigns managers, as well as, technical team to really tie the data together and so forth. But this is an example of just to share that we use lead nurture tactics, we use personalization on our own .com, and as well as organic media on our earned channels. And as a result to date, the total investment in terms of ad spend, or as well as some of the execution that we actually, paid another consultant to go in and just kind of like, post, for example, so things like that. It's all part of our investment. And the number of responses that came into our pipeline, number of raw leads that got converted. And then when we look at the pipeline, when we look at a lot of the opportunities that got created, we do have the numbers associated as well. So you can see we invested about, less than $1 million so far, and we actually got over $50 million in pipe. So by seeing that, you can see 63x of return. And in marketing, we have a very hard time to prove that our work makes, a great impact. And so this is an example to really put in their face is that, if we do it in a smart way and we coordinate a lot of different technologies into one, we can produce a lot. And I'm hoping that this number is going to grow and it's going to become a lot bigger if we actually become a lot smarter with our technologies. And then that's just an example of a waterfall funnel within our marketing BI. And here comes this another snapshot of our what we use. It is a BrightEdge traffic dashboard. So what I would do with this dashboard is I go in there and I look at the different traffic that come into our .com. And as you can see here, organic plays a big role because we have a lot of visitors coming to our .com, on a monthly basis. And then what is activity from social as well as direct or paid, or any other channels that we actually care for. But ultimately, this is just to show that it's a big component to what we do because since we built our .com as a hub of information, all the traffic that come in, the quality of the traffic, what do they do on site, what is their path, where do they go to the next page, what is their behavior, all of that will give us a lot of intelligence to build out the next step. So key points. Again, I think SEO is very important to us because it doesn't require a whole lot of money to drive traffic to .com. We don't have to pay, to put an ad in front of someone to get their attention. So that way, it's pretty much like, aside from the foundational cost to us, it's kind of free traffic. So we should do a lot more with it. So I think it's a very a key thing for our strategy. And a lot of campaigns actually start out with inbound. And I think we're lucky enough to have a lot of visitors who come to our .com. And by doing behavioral targeting and retargeting tactics in the right way, actually result in a lot higher engagement. And so that was part of our test results that we had found. And so our focus, so if I was to give a question, if I was to give you $20,000, where would you spend? Would you spend an inbound on Twitter and just kind of have a bunch of keywords and go to influencers and kind of drive traffic to your site? Or should you spend it on lead nurture program or campaign on LinkedIn, for example? I would, in a heartbeat, say, let's just use intelligence that we have in place, using the behavioral data, and continue on to accelerate their journey, because we can now acquire the information where we know they're interested. Let's just target them in a smart way so we can get more for our return. And again, it's not cheap to have this infrastructure in place. So for a B2B company, we invest a lot more on, for example, Eloqua integration, so the email system with our DMP solution. How do we even tie offline data to online data so that way we don't have to waste time chasing the same people in different way and with similar content. So things like that require a lot of real-time data as well as a coordinated business processes. So it also includes getting buy-in from your peers, from your other organizations, IT organization, your ops team, partner marketing, so things like that. We also have to work together. So it is more of a digital movement. It's more of a transformation for our company as well. And, I can't stress enough, but it's all about quality and not quantity. So we used to think traditionally is, I'm going to get a bunch of visitors to come to the landing page, and then, hopefully they'll consume the content, and then there's a lot of garbage in our system, and we don't see a lot of conversion. So it's more like awesome, when you talk to, and, we actually work with a lot with agencies as well, and it depends on how much we get to see the data. And so from an end-to-end type of view, you do want to see the conversion rate, because that is how you can quantify or qualify your audience. Like, they have like 1,000 leads, for example, but none of them really turn into an opportunity for us. We're wasting our sales team's time. Their time is valuable. They should be closing the books. Marketing should be smarter to gauge that and give them more quality traffic and leads that they can convert for us and help the business, right? So, there's a lot of conversations like that going on. So from a marketing side of thing, we're trying to be a lot smarter with data so we can basically accelerate our leads in a better way. And here are some key takeaways. I find from a practitioner's point of view that if you don't have a clear set of objectives going into any kind of campaign or a program, it makes it really difficult to measure our success. So planning is a major key for us. I always stress on planning. Just define what you want to measure, and just work and focus on that, and don't start out too big either. It's like, I want to, increase pipe at 50%. What does it really mean? I want to bring in like 10 million. What does it really mean? How do you translate that into executional steps? So I think having the plan, the example that I actually shared before, is just a set of objectives. What are you trying to focus on? And then who is your target audience? Know all of that up front will make your work at the tail end a lot easier. And then the data sources, because if you don't have it in place, how do you get them? Who do you talk to even get your data sources? And things like that. So we have also advanced analytics team in our company that does a lot of predictive. And we're helping them to test the data. And one of the model is called propensity to respond. What it means is we look at the different behaviors of these people going to .com, how many times they visited these pages, how do they, if they were to visit a vSAN product page, will they most likely to convert on an NSX product page? So we're learning all of that stuff by having a different team working on the model. And so we basically work with them very closely to get that going. So this is another practical advice or takeaway is you let your campaign run, and that could be a social campaign or any other campaigns. Let it go for a few weeks, but do look at it very carefully, because you want to optimize as soon as you can. You don't want the money to be spent too much too fast and doesn't really get anything. So look at the data, how great the performance is. I've heard people from my vendor that I work directly, that I run ads on, to say, hey, your campaign is running fantastic. You actually getting really awesome click-through rate and CTR and all that good stuff. And then when I check into our system, it's like no leads. Like, okay, let's just stop and let's just rethink about this for a moment. It could be a wrong tactic that we start out with. It's not the platform issue. It's more like, how do we execute it? Again, that is really relevant to the same point I just made, is always try to audit your data. Basically, is it really important? Is it really something that you want to just look at and say this campaign is successful? Or is it really the pipeline development and what is the end result in your pipeline? Again, it's more like, if you only have $20K to spend it wisely. And I always say, like, if it's really my money, am I going to spend it that way? And that's probably the best check for yourself, to say that, if the campaign is not running the way that you want it, to stop. Because I feel like, as a marketer, without diving in, looking at the data closely, we can't be successful. I think that's all I have. Thank you.